Hello, everybody. How's it going? Good afternoon. Let's talk Shane Waldron some more. There is no thing on this team more interesting or more important than Shane Waldron, I don't think. I think it's very clear that the decision that will ultimately make or break this era of Seahawks football will be the decision to hire Shane Waldron. If he works out, this team has the opportunity to go compete for a Super Bowl. If he doesn't, then you are probably going to see a lot of organizational turnover, not only among the players, but also the staff. And I do mean the staff all the way to the top. This is the decision that will decide whether or not this team is going to be on the right track going forward. So we're definitely going to have a lot of words to say about Shane Waldron as this season draws closer. So earlier today, PFT posted this article where Pete Carroll gave his take on Shane Waldron so far, because obviously we just had the rookie mini camps, and it was our first real opportunity to see what Shane Waldron was bringing to the table in person. And Pete had some positive things to say about the Waldron experience so far. Now, obviously, what else is Pete going to say? Is Pete going to say negative things about Shane Waldron? No, of course not. That's silly. But I wanted to take a look at what he said specifically and see what we could learn from it, because I have said in the past that this is a necessary move to make in order for this team to get to where we need it to get. However, I've also said in a previous video that in order for us to get to a good place, we're probably going to have to wait. It's not going to be good immediately. It might even be bad at the start, but it was a necessary move, and the wait that we are going to have to commit to in order to produce good results on the offense is necessary. So I wanted to take a look at some of the things that Carroll said here. They're not that different from the things that I've alluded to before, but it's interesting to hear it come out of Pete. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we have the PFT article. The rookie minicamp held by the Seattle Seahawks was the first chance for Pete Carroll to work through practices with the team's new offensive coordinator, Waldron. Waldron was hired in January to replace Schottenheimer after 3 seasons. Carroll cited philosophical differences in how to move the offense forward. Carroll spoke about the things Waldron brings to the table with his offensive approach that appealed to him in the interview process. So here's the thing. Here's what he had to say. It's very intricate and very precise, Carroll said. It's beautifully thought out. It's got such a complimentary makeup to it. That's why I fell in love with what he was bringing. It really makes sense. Now, when we hired Shane Waldron a couple months ago, one of the things that I said was this doesn't really feel like a Pete Carroll hire. This feels like a Russell Wilson hire. Now, just because Pete Carroll is saying positive things about Waldron in public like this doesn't mean that this was his decision. It doesn't mean that this was his first choice. I still very much suspect that if it was up to Carroll, we would have gotten somebody more like a Shane Steichen or an Anthony Lynn. But it's good to hear Carroll say positive things about Waldron now that we have him. Of course, what else is he going to do? But the interesting thing about this part of the comment is it kind of addresses one of the big problems the Seahawks had, especially in the latter part of the season last year, when nothing seemed like it was organized, nothing seemed like it was planned out. Everything was either a backyard play where Russell would just run around and eventually find somebody open, or nada. It was a backyard football, basically. Nothing looked scripted. Nothing looked planned. It was just everybody run around and get open, and Wilson run around until you see somebody get open, and that was all we had. It never got any better than that. At the start of the season, maybe we saw some better stuff than that, but throughout the entire, I'd say, second half of the season, it was a lot of just run around, try to get open, and maybe he'll find you. So to hear Pete Carroll address specifically the fact that this offense is precise, intricate, and thought out, and about how smart it is and how much it makes sense, that is an indication that this offense is finally headed in the wrong way, in the right way. So I think when you're looking at a quote like this and you're taking a look at what Shane Waldron came from in terms of the Sean McVay offense, I think you should be very encouraged that our offense this year might finally start making some sense, that we might finally have an offense that actually works according to a schedule, that is doing things according to a plan, that isn't just a bunch of kids running around in the backyard throwing a football around, because that's what it looked like sometimes. So that's the thing that I want to hang my hat on in the positive. Now, he does go on to address another point here that I think bears repeating, because I've kind of already alluded to this fact, but to hear it from Carroll maybe gives it a little more gravitas. He says about this offensive system, it's really smart. Our guys have to work really hard at the discipline to execute it in the right manner. There's a lot of terminology. It won't look as much different as it sounds to us because the system that we're putting in to make sure that we can utilize all the variations and the complements are packed in there. It's not a simple offense at all. So basically what he's saying is this offense is going to be hard to implement. It's going to be hard for the players to learn it. It's going to take time. So basically, it feels like with this quote from Carroll, he's trying to establish expectations. He's trying to convey the fact that an offense that is this complex, with this much terminology, with this many wrinkles in it, is not going to be something that you just pick up over the course of a single offseason without playing any real games. So when I saw that, my thought was, oh, he's seeing the same thing that I'm suspecting. He's seen that this offense is not going to be great coming out of the gate. And I showed you guys, when the Packers went from the Mike McCarthy offense to the Matt LaFleur offense, it took a year. They had a year where they were average, and then the next year they became the best offense in the league. And those Packers offenses had great personnel. One of the best quarterbacks, one of the best receivers, one of the best running backs, good tight end, good offensive line, great offensive line for the most part. And it took him a year. So I kind of just wanted to make this video to highlight this fact once again, because the most important thing I think that we can do as a team this year, and I understand fans have no power, but as fans we can help here too, is to not freak out after every bad game. Because, look, there are going to be bad games in all likelihood. I think this quote just reaffirms that. It's not going to be great at first. And one other thing this article touches on, which has already been established by Carroll in a previous press conference, is that a large chunk of the Schottenheimer playbook is going to carry over this season. So we are still going to see some stuff in the first couple months, maybe even the entire 2021 season, that is left over from Schottenheimer, the stuff that we're trying to get away from, because we need to be able to run something that we're familiar with while we're integrating the new offense. So what I'm really trying to get at here is it's very clear that it is far more likely that this offense takes some time to settle, and it could take the whole season. Don't be shocked if the offense never really blasts off this year. Don't be surprised if you're seeing something kind of like what Green Bay did 2 years ago, when even in the NFC title game, their offense was not all the way there. They played almost 20 real games in 2019, plus the preseason, and they still weren't all the way there yet. So yeah, I found this comment to be interesting. It's nothing that I didn't really cover in my previous Waldron video, but to hear it from Carroll should hammer home in the mind of every fan that patience is going to have to be a virtue this season. If the offense goes 3 and out a few times, you can't panic. If the offense has a couple of bad games, you can't panic. Even if this season doesn't go that well on offense, you can't panic, because this is a necessary change to our offensive philosophy. And if it takes a year for them to figure out how to fully implement it, then so be it. So I'm going to say it again. Everyone prepare for something like this to happen this year. Everyone be ready for this offense to struggle at least the first couple months, maybe the whole year. That's what I would say. I'm going to go and get out of here. Peace out. Go Hawks. Just wanted to address this comment from Carroll because it's interesting. it almost sounds like he's speaking to the fans to me. It almost sounds like he's saying, yeah, it's going to be great, but you got to give it time. So I think that's all we can do. I think that's all we can do, and we have to hope that the time ends up being well spent. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.